Hey to our YouTube audience, wanted to let you guys in on something that just happened recently. It's kind of crazy. I'm not exactly sure why, but the video that Leandre just put out on the Trump food boxes for some reason is actually blew up on Facebook. Just want to give you guys, hold on, check this out for a second. So yeah, that same small video of about a minute and some change, was that minute and 40 seconds, is going absolutely crazy on Facebook right now. And I think this is going viral. So as a result, we started getting too many like questions and whatnot and having to answer the same ones over and over again defending the position. So me and Leandre, what we did instead was we ended up just doing a Facebook Live event. So I'm going to upload that in its entirety or chop it up a little bit just to try and save some time. But so you guys can get an idea of exactly what we were dealing with and what we had to say on this topic. All right, check it out.
Okay, Ernest, what you got for me, man?
All right, first and foremost, let's go ahead and get this out the way. It's your boy, Ernest Stewart, aka True Wendigo, and Leandre Spook, because, you know, black nicknames. And we are Political Blackout. So, Dre, man, today, these last 2 days have been pretty crazy, bro.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild.
And to be honest, I absolutely have no idea why. Considering everything that we have done and posted and the flame wars we've gotten into, and this is the thing that has gotten people really mad. It baffles my mind a little bit that we've gotten to this point where a simple, how long was that video? Barely a minute, some change.
It's like a minute and some seconds, but you know, yeah, I think what it is you know, it's part of the thing that I think that we're experiencing with the with what's been called, you know, kind of the Trump revolution, is people are just happy that someone is saying it. And you know, and when we're in a PC culture, you know, people are afraid to speak and say things, which you know, my background has me completely not afraid to say much of anything. I can say what I want, where I want, to who I want. So I think, you know, people are, you know, pretty excited, but, you know, just, you know, so it was, I think something simple and straightforward, but I think, you know, people were just happy that it was being said. But, you know, very short video. I was at work. I'd read a few articles and stuff on it, and I just recorded just, you know, what came right to mind. So, you know, but yeah, pretty big nonetheless.
Well, and I guess that makes you a horrible person.
Yeah, as I've read, I'm a horrible person.
There's nothing worse than the truth, from what I understand nowadays. So let's go ahead and get into this. Just to let everybody know, we're going to actually kind of keep a hard format for this because there are a lot of people right now. That video is coming up on the 200,000 view mark, and it's probably only going to multiply by then. So we want to at least have this out so we can clear up some objections, because we've been repeating ourselves at this point for the last 2 days. I mean, how many comments is on that video right now? A few thousand?
Yes, it's in, so I think we're approaching about 3K or something like that. I'm not sure. And
it's been shared almost 7,000 times. So we want to make sure that we actually have this out. Because as long as this continues to go out, more people are going to be asking the same questions, and we're going to be able to, you know, have this fall back on without constantly repeating ourselves for the 100th time. I'm answering the same question. So I'm going to pose a few questions to Leandre. By the way, we're on the same squad. Leandre is the other half of Political Blackout. We tried to start this gig a few years ago. Found a few people that were of like-minded. We specialize in nothing but the best of political unicorn technology. And just trying to find a way to actually, you know, branch that out a little bit. So let's get going. This is over. If you have not seen it yet, make sure you go over to Leandre's page and watch it. It's a very, very short video. This video is about the recent proposal. I'm going to say that again, a proposal that part of the money that goes to individuals for their um, supplemental food, um, and technically it's a welfare program,
Thank you, Austin.
is going to be used. So rather than just having simple food stamps, it's going to be, part of it is going to be used, and people are going to be getting food boxes to their home, from what I understand. Now, there seems to be a ton of misconceptions about what this entails, because even though, you pretty straightforwardly just, we're talking about your issue. You did put a link to a article on Yahoo that pretty easily explains what's going on and where they're at in that process right now. We have a ton of comments of people who didn't even take the time to actually click the link.
Right.
So for those who do not know, explain to them what this proposal is.
Well, the proposal, according to the articles, is that approximately half of what is of what people receiving food stamps will actually go to give them actual food boxes. So it's supposed to be, like shelfable milk, non-perishable items, and various other items. And from what I read, it's all like nutritious items, for example, right? And then the other half, people are still going to be getting food stamps. And so people's emotional reactions, I think, kind of got the best of them, for a lot of reasons. But and so they didn't read the article, which I'm usually always very careful to, if I take a screenshot of something, of some sort of article or something, I'm always pretty sure to add the link in there so that people can go click and read it themselves. But trying to get people to do that is like pulling teeth, because I put the article out there and then the detractors didn't bother to go read it. And so half of what the people would be getting would go to food items, things like fresh produce and things like that, and then the other half they were still getting food stamps. So that's how the proposal reads, that it would be sort of like a blue ribbon food delivery service. So as it was presented, like a blue ribbon food delivery service, which the comparison is of a high-end food delivery service. But anyway, that's what the proposal is to take half what people are getting food stamps, deliver them food, which, if you look at where the spending goes, where majority of where the spending goes for food stamps, you'll understand why something like that would be necessary. The top 20 things that food stamps are spent on, these things are not like nutritious stuff. Majority of them are not nutritious stuff. I think like number one is like sodas, which if you understand anything about, the recent liberal position, is that, people need, healthier food options. Well, this gets them healthier food options. And in, like in Seattle, for example, they were wanting to raise taxes on sugary sodas and things like that in order to get people to buy healthier stuff. So they want to raise the cost of one thing in order to make it, I guess, incentivized to buy another one, which doesn't make any sense. But this gets fresh food in people's hands, which is what it does. So that's the proposal as it stands.
Yep. You're right. You're right that it seems that most people actually did have a very strong emotional reaction. And we will get into the objections of your video, even though it was clearly very straightforward. But it seems to be their emotions overtook it, as if they thought that most of the comments are something along the lines of, it's a one-size-fits-all policy. Everyone's only going to get canned food and dry food and nothing else, or that this is replacing the current system. And food stamps is going to go away, just go away completely. And, no one's, the only thing you're going to get is just this box from the government. And we're going to all of a sudden turn our less fortunate into Venezuela.
Right.
Which I'm just going to say it right now. Which I'm going to say right now, the vast majority of people that are objecting to the video that you put out are completely fine with the government structure in Venezuela. But I digress. So we're gonna get into these objections, because I can say that the vast majority of them all fall into the same similar categories. So we're just gonna break it down. The things that we're seeing a lot of, and the only thing that your video really speaks to, is people that are having a problem with receiving the food box in general, being people that are not poor enough to appreciate it, therefore making them, what I'm trying to remember exactly the word that you used in the video, but it was something akin to, and people that were entitled, because a person that's in a state of destitute, that is very hungry, that is poor, those individuals would be happy to get some food.
Right.
And I'll give you a personal example. My ex and I used to regularly go out, and we would go to Walmart to shop because, of course, Walmart was cheap. And a lot of people go to Walmart, and there's quite a few people, lesser off than us, that show up at the Walmart. So for a while, we would keep non-perishable goods in our car, and every now and again, we would buy, food or sandwiches in Walmart, cheap, really good, cheap stuff that we can be able to hand out. So there was always something in the car to be able to hand out because, true charity comes from you, not from the government, but we won't get into that. And you could tell the difference between a person that truly needed something versus the person that just wanted the handout, right?
Yeah.
When you have somebody that's really, really, really hurting, they are thankful for anything that you give them.
Yeah.
Anything they will be thankful for. I can give a guy a double cheeseburger, $1 double cheeseburger from Walmart, and he's happy. Whereas other times people have asked me for money so they can get something to eat. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's go in here. I will buy you any meal you want. You could supersize it. And they're like, oh man, nah man, I don't want that. See? And there's a difference. And I think that's where your video actually, stepped on some toes a little bit. Because if you are truly hurting, you are absolutely happy that anyone is willing to offer you help or give you a box of food. The only people that would complain about a box of food are people with first world problems. No one else.
Yeah.
If you are really in a bad place, you'll take it. So your first one of the objections I used to, that we've been dealing with for the last few days, which I'm sure we are going to see a lot of in the coming days. First and foremost is that most people haven't actually read the proposal. So the first thing we're dealing with is the fact that no one has actually read it, which is why people believe that the food stamps is going away for this box of food. They don't know that they're going to get both. They're going to get a reduced sum of money, and they're also going to get a necessities package, as I'm going to call it at this point.
Commodities,
so
yeah.
I want you to comment. I want you to comment on the people that are saying, first of all, that surprisingly that you don't know what you're talking about, considering the same people haven't actually read it, and that this is going to be a completely unhealthy one-size-fits-all policy.
Well, to the first part of the question, which is the first part, in order to say that there's something wrong with it, you have to actually see it. And so if you haven't taken the time to actually read it, you're ridiculous for trying to make an objection to something that you don't even know anything about. That is not remotely intelligent or logical or reasonable for a person to go and object to something that they don't even know anything about. And then you can't even make a judgment on how healthy it will be when you don't know what's going to be in it because you have not read it. And so when people are saying something so ridiculous, when as it was presented, what it's going to be, like fresh food and produce and things like that, healthy options. To say that it's going to be unhealthy, I mean, I've seen some of the most ridiculous comments. I think, one lady came on and said, this has been Trump's grand plan that he's going to poison poor people. And she said, he's going to, she's going to give us, she's going to pump all of this stuff full of poison to give it to the people. And so I had to ask the lady, does that tinfoil hat come, is it one size fits all or was yours a custom fit? because she doesn't have any basis for making a claim like that, but she said it nonetheless. She said it very confidently. And so I don't know where she got the tinfoil hat that she does, but there's no basis for making a claim that he's trying to kill people, especially when, again, the people who were saying it did not actually click the link that was up there. And it was very apparent from conversing with these people. And, I like to get my hands dirty. So I didn't just post the video and then not comment. I love the debate of it. So I went right back in. And as you engage people, you feel like you realize, okay, you didn't even read it. You don't even know what it says. So to make any of these claims, you need a basis. You can't just go around just making claims. So, that's, my response to that part there.
So yeah, so again, I'll say it again. If you were coming on here to belittle that original video, it would be I would behoove you to click the link, and what is it? It's a Yahoo News link, correct? Yes, it's a Yahoo News link. Read it first before you come on here and leave a comment that Dre does not know what he's talking about, when at the very least, he has read it and what's surrounding it before you have. So again, people are jumping the gun. And at the very least, we're not even jumping the gun. The only video that you posed was that the people that would complain about this, getting free food, would be individuals that are not poor enough to know what it's like to go without. You've got first world problems. All right, so the next thing that I saw a lot of were people that were complaining about dignity and choice. A large portion of the comments were something along the lines of, well, you're taking away people's dignity and you're taking away people's choice. That people want the dignity to be able to make their own choices, which again, clearly means that this is a person that has not read it. Otherwise, they would know that there is still a part of it, that the other half of it still applies, and they're not doing away with the current system. I got to repeat that for the 100th time. They're not doing away with the current system. They will still be able to make a choice with some of the money that they're going to get from the government anyway. So it will be supplemented by the necessity that the USDA is choosing. And by the way, this is not a proposal that comes from Trump. That's another thing that if people actually read the articles, they would know that this has actually been in play from some government organizations for quite some time. Trump did not actually start this. For whatever reason, he just feels that this is a good idea. So let's talk about the dignity and choices bit, because outside the fact that that the people that are making this argument clearly have not read the proposal or read anything on it. What do you have to say to the people that actually are using the fact that you're taking away someone's dignity, which you're not, and you're taking away someone's choices, which you're not?
One of the things that I thought is the dumbest thing is that this is why I said people are entitled and they're spoiled, and you believe that you have a right to this kind of stuff. You don't have a right to things that you don't possess and you don't pay for. And so if you think that you get to demand something free from somebody and then demand options in it, you have an issue. You don't get to decide what people give you for free. Imagine me come to your house and saying, listen, I'm hungry, I'm starving. Listen, I need you to feed me. Say, listen, here, take this can of beans. I said, oh, no. I'm not really fond of beans. I was actually hoping that you had some steak. I smelled steak, and I was just hoping that you would just give me some steak. You don't get to make demands of things that you don't pay for. But this is the problem with the welfare state as a whole. And because what it's told people is that you have an entitlement, that people owe you these things. And it's one of the things that actually brought about Obamacare, for example. Obamacare came about because people wanted more options in the medical field, right? And people wanted access to things that they did not pay for. And so they weren't just willing to take the things that they would get from the county office or whatever, if they signed for welfare. These are people who wanted to get the same sort of services, the goods and services at the same quality as people who were paying for higher quality goods and services. But this is what like socialism and communism, this sort of stuff is. It's where you want to make everything equal without having to pay for it. And you want to be able to get higher quality things without paying for it. You have to pay a premium for better services. I don't get to walk into a restaurant, claim that I'm hungry, and then demand that they give me filet mignon if they want to hand me French fries that they were going to throw out. You know, whatever it is, you're not entitled to these things. But this is the issue. You think that you're entitled to things, and you're not. You don't have a right to free food. Then if someone decides they want to give you free food, you don't have a right to demand from them things that you want. So to say that someone has taken away their choice, no one's taken away their choice because they didn't have one to begin with. You have a choice when you have put in the effort, when you have paid for something. I can complain when I don't get what I paid for. You cannot complain when you have not paid for anything and you just want something. Other people have paid for their choice. You have not paid a thing for yours, and you think you deserve it. We have a problem there. And so that's the issue with anyone claiming that someone's choice has been taken away or someone's dignity has been taken away. Your dignity, you would have the dignity. You'd be able to poke your chest out and lift your head up when you go to work for things, when you know that you have earned the dollar that you've been given. That's when you can have your dignity. There is no dignity in saying, listen, I need you to take, it's not supposed to be. I don't know why people think that it's not supposed to be, that is supposed to be a good thing and it's supposed to be acceptable to have your hand out. And again, it's not to say that some people don't fall in hard times, but it is to say. And some people, you know, you borrow money from your family, things like that, but that's not a proud moment and it's not supposed to be. And so to want to change that into, you know, to where there's no shame in that, which is why people can live on these social programs for years. You know, as long as they have minor children, they can live on these programs because there is no shame in it. The shame has been removed from it. And it's supposed to be shameful. You're not supposed to need people. And if you have failed to plan for your life and have failed to execute some plan of escape when something bad happens, that's no one's fault but your own. And so I didn't take your dignity. You surrendered that when you didn't plan for your future. So you don't have a choice to things that are not yours, things that you did not pay for. You do not have a right to these things. And then you would have your dignity if you went to work for it. Nobody can take anything from me. Everything that I have, I bought, I paid for. I did it with my blood, sweat, and tears. Through poverty, through riches, through whatever it is, I worked really hard for. So that can't be taken from me because I know what I did for it. So to those people, to those detractors, I think you need to apply just a tad critical thinking, and so you don't get the idea that anyone deserves anything. Where does the right come from to get free things in the first place, which is the presupposition that you have a right to these things in the first place, in order that you can claim that someone has done you wrong by not giving you a choice in these matters. There's a presuppositional issue there that needs to be dealt with, and you don't have a right to these things.
Yeah, I tried myself to actually figure out what actually is, and I actually honestly took some time out to think about this. What is the source of any thought or any worldview that believes that I have any say in what you earn? I can't.
Remember Thomas Sowell asked the question, he said, he said, you know, since we're talking about social justice, what is your fair share of other people's money? How much are you entitled to of my paycheck?
Yeah. Yep. He said, what is your fair share of what I earn? So, yeah. But we're not even getting into this because the funny part is that this is a social program. This is just in a God honest version, another version of welfare. So what I find uniquely interesting in all of this is that the same people that are complaining about this are the same individuals that are for so many government programs as it is. If these people have the worldview and they believe that the government is supposed to provide for them, then here is.
Hey, listen, hey, do me a favor. I want you to pin that comment from Kwame there. I want you to pin that comment there.
All right.
Pin that comment. I want to make sure that that's one that we deal with. He's a European fellow, and so he believes and holds all these socialist policies. I want to make sure we deal with that one there. But anyway, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. So and what I wanted to say about and you scratched the surface, or actually you dug pretty damn deep on the dignity and choices angle, is this belief that you in any way, shape, or form have a right to my labor or anyone else's labor, so much so that you believe it is okay for you to be able to tell me what I can do for you with my labor and my earnings. So the example I keep giving, and by the way, people, I'm not actually commenting on that page as myself. I'm actually commenting as Political Blackout, because you won't see Ernest Stewart on there because half the time I forget to change it to myself. But a lot of the comments I'm leaving my answer seems to go something like this. We walk into a car dealership, right? You and I both walk into a car dealership. You want a car. And instead of me simply being the co-signer of your car, I am the primary financier of your car. So I buy this car for you. And not only do I buy this car for you, I pay the car note. I pay the taxes on the vehicle, and I put gas in the car. But you have a problem with me telling you I don't want you to drive it too much. That is where we have a problem. That is where the rubber meets the road in this conversation. The people that are having a problem with your video are people that are having a problem with the fact that they feel entitled to someone else's labor or earnings, so much so that they feel that it is their place to tell them what they should do with it.
Right.
If I pay your car note, if I pay the taxes on the vehicle, if I pay the gas in that vehicle, you're damn well sure I get to tell you that, hey, maybe I don't want you driving it 300 miles a week. Maybe I want you to use this vehicle to go to only take care of necessities, because by you using it for any other reasons other than necessities, you might be accruing more costs to me than what I am willing to pay or what I'm willing to deal with. Because the more you drive it, of course, the more I'm going to have to also pay for things like oil changes, new.
A few moments later.
All right, for everybody else that's just joined for the first time, this is your boy Ernest Stewart, aka True Wendigo, and Leandre Spook Williams McBride, and we are Political Blackout. We're going back. We're going to continue. This is part 2. It's part 2.
I am drinking a tawny port is what I'm drinking. To answer your question, Miss Emily, I'm drinking the tawny port. Okay, now what question were we on?
Well, since you asked the question about wine, I've got to answer the question about wine, right? Right? No? Why are you pulling guns to the pictures? I swear, black people and guns, man. I've got more than you. We don't need to do this again. We really don't.
I doubt that. But anyway, what?
I got to refill my cup. We're right about back. We're about halfway back to where we were before. We had almost 50 before. We're sitting around 20.
Cheers.
And I am drinking from a big bottle of Pinot Grigio. I think it's Liberty Bell, because I'm cheap. And
all right, what topic were we on, man?
All right, the last thing we left on, we got done talking about the fact that it was incomplete, your objections. We dealt with the dignity of these individuals that are making these choices for these meal boxes. And I was kind of running through a rant about how you don't necessarily you lost your dignity the second, or you know what? I'll go ahead and phrase it. If somebody buys your car, if somebody pays for your gas, if somebody pays the taxes, you have no choice. My point very simply was is that as long as I am paying for that vehicle, you do not have the right to come to me and tell me that it's wrong when I tell you that I only want you to drive that vehicle for necessities, because I don't want to accrue any other additional costs. So I want you to drive that vehicle where you need to and nowhere else, because I am paying for it. You are an entitled little shit if, for any reason, you believe you have the right to tell me that I can't determine what your service and good that I am paying for is used for. You remember when you were young? Actually, you don't, because your mom was, a crackhead. For most of us, and actually, my mom wasn't a crackhead, but that's a story for a different day. Or I would say those of us that are not part of the group that is born to a 75% out of wedlock birth rate, and actually I think it's 78% now, used to hear something that went kind of like this. This is when you knew that you were in the presence of someone with power. You were a child, and you would want to ask why to your parents. For those of us who've had the experience of having a full household, which you and I did not. And it would go something like this. Who pays for those clothes on your back? Who pays for that food in your mouth? Do you have a roof over your head? Are you able to get to school? Who pays for your health care? Who pays for your toothbrush? Who pays for fill in the blank? Who paid for that Nintendo? Who paid for that Xbox? Who paid for that PlayStation? Who paid for fill in the blank? Your parents knew instinctively that the person that pays has control. Are you still playing with your gun?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Nigga. Okay. And this is very simple. For some reason, so many people don't seem to understand it. If I pay for it, I get to determine the rules. Right? I think that's simple. But for some reason, people are arguing having these emotional arguments about dignity and choices when I am the one that is paying for it. You've lost your right to choice. You have lost your right to dignity the second I pay for it. So you can't be mad when I tell you what you can and cannot do with the product, good, or service that I pay for. And I've seen you say it 100 times. I've said it 100 times. But I want to make sure for the last time you go ahead and explain it one more time.
Well, listen, if the way that you get choice is by paying for it, you can pay a premium for certain services and certain goods. If you would like something additional, you can pay something extra for it. You're not entitled to it simply by virtue of being alive. Simply because you are asking for it does not entitle you to it. And so if you want something, it's going to cost you. Same thing with when it comes to contraceptives and and all these other things that, as the debates and stuff rage on. You want it, right? But then you think that you don't have to pay for it. Somebody else has to pay for it. That's ridiculous. If you want it, then you pay for it. And so if you believe that you want to have a choice, you don't have the right to demand that from someone who's footing the bill. Listen, I want this, not this. Okay, then that's fine. Then you pay for it. You go ahead and then you supply whatever it is necessary to cover the cost of it. And if you can't do that, then you don't have any right to make that claim. There is no inherent human right to free things and to the choice of things that then therefore you did not pay for. There is no inherent right. The Creator has not endowed man with such inalienable rights that you have a choice to things that you don't pay for. You just don't. You absolutely just don't. I can't, go ask for other things. Like, for example, the Second Amendment is something that I actually do have as an inalienable right. But if I'm paying for it, then I should be able to buy whatever it is that I want. But if someone else, I can't demand someone else pay for my weapons. You can't demand that anyone pay for anything. I don't care what it is. If it's food, if it's services, if it's whatever, if it's healthcare, no matter what it is, if you're not paying for it, you don't get to dictate what you get. So anyway.
And what I find surprising, and this is
what else you got, man?
This goes to your short video. Very, 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 very at the heart of the matter is that when you were talking about how people that complain about this this new proposal have an issue with, is a clear sign that they're not really hurting as much, is the fact that is everything you just said a moment ago. If I cover it, I have a right. Now, an objection would be that it's not me, it's the community. Because technically, when we're talking about the government, we're paying for it. But however, when would society ever be obligated? Whoa, wait, holy crap. Billy just left a comment that exactly what I was about to say. That is almost on point. Society is not obligated to pay for anything. But be that as it may, we'll skip past that a little bit. We'll get to that during the Q&A. But Billy and I were on the same wavelength for that moment. Is that you don't have it if you don't pay for it. You don't have the dignity. You don't have the choice if you do not pay for it. I don't know what's really hard to understand about this. So we're gonna probably let's move on a little bit. Because I mean at this point we're kind of beating a dead horse because this is so simple. So even the people that I'll deal with this very quickly. For the people that say this is not I as an individual that's paying for it, one, that's technically wrong because if you're a tax-paying citizen, you are paying for it, even though it is a collective unit. Two, the government is paying for it. So if the government's paying for it, you have then passed on your right to, air quotes, dignity and choices to that very same government, which thereby makes you a slave to their whims and choices. Because whether it be an individual, whether it be a corporation, whether it be a small business, and whether it be the government, if any entity is paying your way in anything at all, you do not have the last word. I don't understand what is hard about that concept. You don't have the last word. It wasn't your choice to give the food to you because you were not capable of getting it and paying for it yourself in the first place. Therefore, it is not your choice in order to choose what is done with it. Now, granted, again, we'll go back and say that the people that have an issue with the dignity and choices issue actually don't know what the proposal is, and have not actually read the proposal, so they don't actually know what it entails. But if it was, let's just say if it was a one-size-fits-all system that the government provided, this is what you are asking for as we move into this topic of government control. This is exactly what you are asking for when you say you want the government to take care of the needs of the people. That's it.
Did you see the comment about something about deadbeat daddies or something like that? What was that to? Did you see it in the comment section down there?
I can scroll up that in a moment if you'd like. Francesca. Actually, no. We're not doing that yet. We're going to get done with this. You're going to make your last comment. We're going to talk about the government control bit, and then we're going to move to the Q&A. So let's talk about this government control bit. And this is where we excel. So I'm gonna flex this a little bit. Because two things I find interesting. One, as somebody that leans more libertarian, I'm against the vast majority of social programs because I honestly believe in the old adage of teach a man to fish versus give him fish. But be that as it may, we are in a situation where people are having an issue with the government making a choice for them that they are not paying for, but they want, let me be very serious here, they want the government to do this for them in a multitude of other ways. So let's just, somebody send me another, let's just call this Obamacare with food. When Obamacare passed.
What's going on with your signal, man?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. I said, let's call this Obamacare with food. Because I know for a fact that if this was being proposed by a previous administration, a Democratic administration, well, let's be honest, with modern Democrat is nothing more than a socialist, Marxist administration, people would be jumping for joy at the fact that the government was going to provide for their basic needs because that is what the government is supposed to do. Right? That's what the government is supposed to do.
I was asked about my books. Go ahead, continue.
It's supposed to take care of your child. It's supposed to feed you. It's supposed to make sure you get from point A to point B. But what these people do not understand is that they are then becoming slaves to the things that they're indebted to. I don't see what people do not understand about that. If someone provides your basic needs, they provide for you, period. Because you're incapable of providing it for yourself, therefore you are a slave to that system. Which means they then have the full capability to change it at their whim. This is the nature of government control. This is why individuals such as ourselves, classical liberals, centrists, center-right, conservatives, conservatarians, all the way to the big L libertarians, seem to have one thing in common, and that's the understanding that government is not the end-all and be-all for charity. What I hope comes from this, which is kind of interesting that people now all of a sudden they care about government spending, Dre. Let me say that again. Now they care about government spending. Is that maybe, just maybe, they might turn. Can you hear me? You good? Maybe, just maybe, this will turn these people into more liberty-minded individuals when they see that giving the government so much control that they can provide for you is actually not a good thing. You know, so I want you to speak on that for a little bit. Because I honestly think that had this program been instituted by any previous Democrat administration, people will be jumping for joy. Because this is clearly a more socialist type program. Now, personally, I don't agree with it.
Right.
I do not personally agree with the program. But what I will say is that the people that disagree with it now because it's under Trump are disagreeing with it because they feel as if it's taking away a choice from them that they have no right to begin with. And I'll let you take the floor.
Well, I'll say this. Listen, if you, the people who are against this thing, I don't think that they realize that this is kind of the realization of turning over power to the government in the first place. If the government is the one feeding you and you depend on these people to pay for your medical care, your health care, your food, and all these sorts of things like this, that they are the arbiter of what you get. So you don't have what we call as buying power. Buying power is where in a marketplace I can dictate, what I get. I can dictate where my money goes, things like that. You don't have that buying power. You've surrendered everything to the government, and they get to determine what's good for you. And so then this is what happens when you give the government too much power to begin with. If you give them power in this realm to feed you or to give you health care, for example, right, then they are the ones who decide whether or not you don't get a service. So when you look at Europe and when you hear about people being on waiting lists or getting flat out denied for services and things like that, that's a result of you turning that over to government control. And so if you don't want the government telling you what to eat, then don't depend on them to feed you. I determine what I want to eat when I go to the store. You determine what, if for example, you get a food box, the government has determined what it is that you can eat because you have depended on them to feed you. And so with my kids, for example, they depend on me to feed them. And so whatever I give them, they're going to eat. It's very simple. If you need me to give you your food, then I pick what you get. I'm not standing up and chasing down options because you believe it's not cost effective. It's not being smart with time to have to chase down every option that it is that you think that you want. When you get that choice is when you pay for it yourself. When you put in the hard work yourself, that's when you get the choice. If you don't put in the hard work, if you're not doing it yourself, then you don't actually have a choice. It's that simple. I don't have to worry about the government picking my food because I don't depend on them to feed me. And if you depend on them to feed you, you have asked for a bigger government. You continually ask for these social programs to be increased over and over and over and over again. And the only way that that's ever going to end is with the sort of programs that you want to be fully realized, that the government decides when you get approved for a medical service, whether or not you can see the doctor, when you get a surgery, rather than your dollars paying for that, your hard work and your dollars paying for that. And so what happens as a result is that the government says, we don't think you need it. Okay. I'm not the one that's giving them this power. I don't think that there should be any wealth. I believe that everyone should be responsible for themselves, for their own families, and things like that. And so not to say that it is a perfect solution and it will not work for everyone, but it is to say that it is the better solution than having the government decide what you can eat. And then if they were to decide when you can eat, you get 2 rations a day versus 3 because they're out of food or whatever it is. You can just eliminate all of this to begin with when you don't allow the government to feed you. I don't ask them to feed me. I don't ask them for subsidies for anything. So that's eliminated when you stop asking them to feed you. Pooey, what's up, man?
So okay, so let's dive into the more personal objections, because we've had a handful of them that okay, anyway, someone's talking about a baby daddy tax, and let me be honest, the baby daddy tax already exists. It's called sleep with the wrong woman, and you're gonna have to pay child support for the rest of your life. But anyway, 18 years. Anyway, so one of the largest objections that I've seen that you've gotten has to do with people assuming your background because of your viewpoints. One, stop playing with the gun. Stop being a black person. We don't need to play with the gun right now because I'm not pulling mine out. Stop it. It's the assumption that because you have the views that you do, 1, you may not be black. 2, that the reason that you have the views that you have is because your life was very well off, and we probably should, in all honesty, we probably should have covered this first. But people believe that your life was very well off, mine included, by extension. And 3, that the only way you would have the views that you have or would have achieved what you have currently is because you personally latched, I remember as one person put it, latched on to someone or something else to help excel. So I really want you to talk to that, talk about your background. I'll get into mine a little bit too, so we get a full picture on why is it that these people believe that because you have the views that you do, that you have to be something different than what they believe it to be.
Well, I want to say that it's really ridiculous and kind of prejudicial to think that people have a monolithic thinking because of whatever reason. But I will say that my upbringing was not a grand one. My mother was a drug addict for the vast majority of my life. Either that or she was in prison.
Wait, what kind of? Hold on a second. What kind of drug, Dre?
My mother used crack cocaine. Okay, so she was part of the crack epidemic. I was a crack baby myself. I was born that way.
Wait.
I was a crack baby.
Hold on. Did you just say you were a crack baby?
I was a crack baby. That was me.
Oh man.
So I grew up in. I didn't grow up in in any good neighborhoods, anything like that. Never in life. Never in life. I lived in West Fresno, which is, I lived in West Fresno and I lived in East Fresno, both at the Southeast Fresno, Southwest Fresno. These are not particularly good areas. So the assumption that I hold the position that I do because I come from prominence, I have a silver spoon in my mouth, is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. From foster care system, emergency placement, things like that. That was my life. The people that I lived with were on social services, my mother included. Family members that I know, and most of the people who are in my community were all on the same services. And so that's ridiculous to assume that I come from prominence because I hold the position that I do. As a matter of fact, I hold it because I come from the position that I come from, and I understand the economics of it. I understand the math behind it. I understand the decisions that lead to people being there. So it was really, really ridiculous to hear several times that you don't know what it's like and you don't know the struggle. You've never been there. That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's an assumption based simply on the fact that I hold a position different than they do. So they believe that everyone who was in that group who lives in poverty and who comes from the ghettos and things like that all these people have one way of thinking. They bear the burden of proof for that there's a monolithic thinking that goes along with people who are from those demographics. It's clearly not true, and it's demonstrably false when you consider even people like Ben Carson and things like that, right? So even their Lord and Savior, even their Lord and Savior Barack Obama, for example. But that's neither here nor there. So I don't come from a prominent background. I hold the position that I do because I realize the hard work that it takes if you actually want to succeed. Life is not fair. It was never promised to be, and it takes hard work to get places that you want to go. But since I know people resist anything that is laborious, right? They may not put in the hard work. They may not do what it takes to get where they want. And I had the exact opposite experience. I did the exact opposite with my story, and that's why I hold the position that I do, because I realize what it takes to get somewhere different. And so I use myself as proof that anybody can get anywhere. But anyway, what were the other parts that I was answering to?
Yeah, it was primarily dealing with that, and actually dealing with the why, which is what you actually answered. Because what I found recently, especially since we tried to start this thing, is that there seems to be a default assumption that because we have the views that we have, we must have came from a better place than the people that are objecting to us. Which, by the way, let me be honest, are typically white liberals.
Yep. Ernest has terrible service. My video feed is still going. His is not going. So anyway, thank everybody for watching. I hope I got to some of the issues and some of the objections that people keep raising up against me. I have probably responded to people hundreds and hundreds of times now. But I love the argument. I love the debate. I love the engagement back and forth with people. I believe debates are exchanges of information. And so, therefore, I happily debate with people, and I dialogue with them, and I love it. I love getting my hands dirty. I've been blocked by a lot of people. I've been threatened. Yes, this is an Invicta watch, Mr. David Perry, my favorite brand. But nevertheless, anyway, thank you all for watching. More to come. I want to send a special shout out to Mr. Brandon Tatum. Thank you for sharing the video and helping to get such wide exposure. Much love, respect. Anyway, more videos to come. Carlos, Political Blackout.